The grand hall of the Galactic Council buzzed with whispers and poorly hidden smirks as Captain James Miller walked toward the central platform. His boots made soft clicks against the polished floor, each step echoing through the massive chamber. Behind him, Chief Engineer Anna Wright clutched a data pad containing the specifications of humanity's greatest achievement, the Archimedes. The alien representatives sat in rising tiers around them, their various forms creating a living tapestry of colors and shapes. Some floated in anti-gravity fields, others sat in traditional chairs, and a few existed as pure energy contained within special chambers. All of them shared one thing in common. They were watching the humans with barely concealed amusement. "You may present your findings," announced the council leader, a tall being with silvery skin who sat at the highest point of the chamber. Although their voice was neutral, their eyes held the same skepticism as the others. James cleared his throat. "Distinguished members of the council, Earth is proud to announce the completion of our first seventh-dimensional vessel, the Archimedes." The chamber erupted in laughter. Some delegates didn't even try to hide their reactions, while others attempted to mask their amusement behind raised hands or tentacles. "Impossible," shouted a delegate from the third tier. "Your species barely mastered four-dimensional travel a decade ago." Anna stepped forward, her face calm despite the mockery. "We understand your skepticism, but our research into dimensional physics has yielded unprecedented results. The Archimedes represents a quantum leap in spacecraft design." More laughter followed. A blob-like being in the front row rippled with mirth, its translator converting its movements into words. "These humans think they can jump from basic space folding to seventh-dimensional engineering. Next, they'll claim they can dance with the universe itself." James maintained his composure, though his jaw tightened slightly. He had expected this reaction. After all, humanity was still considered young among the spacefaring races. Most species took thousands of years to progress from four-dimensional to five-dimensional travel. The idea that humans had secretly developed seven-dimensional technology seemed absurd to them. "The Archimedes currently orbits Earth," Anna continued, pulling up a holographic display. "As you can see, its design differs significantly from conventional vessels." The hologram showed a ship unlike anything the Council had seen before. Instead of the sleek, aggressive lines of military vessels or the bulbous shapes of commercial craft, the Archimedes looked almost incomplete. Parts of it seemed to fade in and out of existence, while other sections appeared to fold into themselves in impossible ways. "That's not a ship," declared another delegate. "That's a malfunction in your holographic projector." The unusual appearance is due to the ship's ability to exist partially in multiple dimensions, James explained. "What you're seeing is only the three-dimensional shadow of its true form." The council leader raised a hand for silence as the laughter threatened to become deafening. "Captain Miller, Chief Engineer Wright, while we appreciate Earth's ambitious spirit, such claims require proof. Are you prepared to demonstrate this vessel's capabilities?" "We are," James replied firmly. "The Archimedes stands ready for any test the Council wishes to propose." "Very well." The Council leader's voice carried a hint of condescension. "We will arrange a suitable demonstration. Though I must warn you, making false claims before this Council carries serious consequences." As James and Anna left the chamber, the laughter and jokes followed them. In the corridor outside, Anna's professional demeanor cracked slightly. "They think we're fools," she muttered. James allowed himself a small smile. "Let them laugh. They're judging us by their own limitations. How long did it take your team to solve the dimensional folding equation?" 3 years, Anna replied. "They think it's impossible because they're approaching it from the wrong angle. They're trying to brute force their way through dimensions, while we—" She paused, a proud glint in her eyes. "We learned to dance with them." Back in Earth's orbit, the Archimedes waited silently. To most observers, it appeared to be flickering, like a faulty hologram or a mirage in the desert. But those who watched long enough might notice something strange. Sometimes, parts of the ship seemed to exist in places they couldn't possibly be, breaking the very laws of physics that the galaxy's greatest minds held dear. The laughter would continue for now. But soon, very soon, the galaxy would understand exactly what humanity had achieved. And then, the laughter would stop. 3 weeks after humanity's presentation to the Galactic Council, alarms blared across every major space station in the Orion Arm. Emergency lights flashed through the darkness of space as sensors detected something that shouldn't be possible. In the command center of Starbase 7, the Council leaders stared at the massive display screen with wide eyes. Their silvery skin had lost its usual luster, turning almost gray with worry. "Show me the readings again," they demanded. The technical officer, a being made of crystalline structures, manipulated the controls. The screen filled with data streams and sensor readings. At the center of it all was a tear in space itself, a massive void that seemed to eat the very fabric of reality. "It's growing," the officer reported. "The tear is now 12 light-years wide and expanding at an accelerating rate." The Council leader watched as entire star systems near the edge of the tear began to distort. "Send in the Fifth Fleet. They have our most advanced dimensional ships." Within hours, the pride of the Galactic Council's fleet arrived at the tear's edge. Massive ships bristling with 5-dimensional technology moved into position. Their engines glowed as they prepared to seal the breach using the most advanced technology known to the Council. It failed completely. The void tear swallowed their energy beams like they were nothing. 2 ships got too close and disappeared instantly, their crews lost to whatever existence lay beyond normal space. "Send the Sixth Fleet," the Council leader ordered, their voice shaking slightly, "and evacuate all systems within 20 light-years of the tear." Messages of panic flooded in from across the galaxy. Billions of beings watched in horror as the tear continued to grow. The Sixth Fleet arrived with ships capable of manipulating 6 dimensions, technology that had taken their civilizations thousands of years to develop. They failed too. In the observation room of the Archimedes, Captain James Miller watched the situation unfold through secure channels. Anna Wright stood beside him, her fingers flying over multiple control panels. "The tear is exactly what we predicted might happen," she said quietly. "The other species pushed too hard into higher dimensions without understanding the consequences. They cracked the universal membrane." James nodded. "How long until it reaches populated space?" "At current expansion rates. 48 hours. The Centauri colonies will be first. After that." She didn't need to finish. They both knew what would happen. The ship's communication system crackled to life. On the screen, a harried-looking Council leader appeared. "Captain Miller," they said, all previous condescension gone from their voice. "The situation is grave. We've lost contact with 2 fleets and the void tear continues to grow. Our best scientists are helpless." James exchanged a look with Anna before responding. "We know. We've been monitoring the situation. Then you understand why I'm calling. Your claims about 7th-dimensional technology, were they true?" "Every word." The Council leader's expression shifted through several emotions. Desperation, hope, and lingering doubt. "The Council formally requests Earth's assistance. Whatever resources you need will be provided." James straightened his uniform. "We don't need resources. We just need clearance to approach the tear without your fleets trying to stop us." "You have it." "But Captain," the Council leader paused. "If this is some kind of bluff." "With all due respect," Anna cut in, "we don't bluff about things that could destroy half the galaxy." James gave the order, and throughout the Archimedes, crews moved with practiced precision. The ship's unique engines hummed to life, producing a sound that seemed to come from everywhere and nowhere at once. "All stations report ready," announced the bridge officer. Dimensional fold drives responding normally. The Archimedes moved away from Earth's orbit, its form shifting and changing as it prepared for its first real test. Parts of the ship began to exist in multiple places at once, its true form becoming more apparent as it unleashed more of its capabilities. As they accelerated toward the tear, James looked at his crew. Each person sat calmly at their station, ready to prove that humanity's achievement was no joke. They had trained for this, prepared for this, even if they hadn't known exactly what form the crisis would take. "Take us in," James ordered. "Let's show them what seventh-dimensional engineering can really do." The Archimedes jumped forward, moving in ways that made other ships' sensors go haywire. The laughter had stopped. Now it was time for humanity to save the galaxy. As the Archimedes approached the void tear, Dr. Robert Wells stood in the ship's main science lab, surrounded by holographic displays showing complex equations. His gray hair reflected the blue glow of the screens as he explained the ship's technology to the emergency council meeting being broadcast across the galaxy. "You've all been approaching dimensional travel wrong," he said, his hands moving through the floating diagrams. "You tried to force your way through dimensions, like using a hammer to break through walls. We learned to dance with them instead." The council members watched in silence, their earlier mockery forgotten as billions of lives hung in the balance. Behind Wells, the lab's windows showed the strange, twisted space near the void tier. "Look here," Wells continued, pulling up an old Earth diagram. "This is from one of our earliest theories about string theory and dimensions, created centuries ago by scientists who couldn't even leave our planet yet." The display showed vibrating strings in multiple dimensions. "We discovered that dimensions aren't stacked like floors in a building. They're more like ripples in a pond. They flow into each other, create patterns, respond to gentle touches rather than brute force." He gestured, and the hologram changed to show the Archimedes' unique engine design. "Your ships try to punch through dimensions, which creates strain on the universal membrane. That's what caused this tear. But our ship," he smiled, "our ship resonates with dimensional frequencies." In the observation deck above the lab, Captain Miller watched Dr. Wells' presentation while Anna ran final calculations. Through the reinforced windows, they could see the void tear pulsing like a hungry mouth in space. "It's like music," Anna said softly, her eyes on her displays. The old scientists were right. The universe has strings, and they vibrate. We just learned to play them correctly. The ship's sensors picked up the death of another star system at the edge of the tear, a flash of light, then nothing. Billions of tons of matter gone in an instant. Down in the lab, Wells continued his explanation. "The Archimedes doesn't break through dimensions. It exists in all of them simultaneously. Watch." He pressed a button, and new readings appeared. The council members leaned forward, their various sensory organs fixed on the data. "Each part of our ship vibrates at different dimensional frequencies," Wells explained. "When you saw parts of it seeming to flicker or exist in multiple places, you were seeing its presence across different dimensions. It's not a malfunction or a visual trick. The ship literally exists in 7 dimensions at once." The council leader's voice came through the communication system. "But how is this possible? Our greatest minds spent thousands of years." "Because you tried to conquer dimensions," Wells interrupted. "We tried to understand them. Look at your own ships, layers of technology forced to work together. Now look at ours." The hologram zoomed in on the Archimedes' structure. Everything works in harmony. Each system supports the others. It's not about power or force, it's about balance. In the engine room, engineers monitored the ship's dimensional resonance chambers. Unlike the rough, powerful engines of other species ships, these looked almost delicate. Crystalline structures pulsed with soft light, each beat perfectly timed with the others. "Your ships are hammers," Wells said. "Ours is a tuning fork." He pulled up the final diagram, showing how the Archimedes would approach the void tier. "We won't try to force it closed. We'll match its frequency, guide it back into harmony with normal space. Like calming a ripple in a pond." The council chamber erupted in discussion. Some members argued it was impossible. Others demanded immediate action. The council leader raised their hands for silence. "Dr. Wells," they said, "if you're wrong, we're not wrong." Wells's voice was firm. "We've tested this technology extensively. The only reason we kept it secret was because we knew you wouldn't understand it, wouldn't believe it was possible." Captain Miller's voice came over the intercom. "Dr. Wells, we're in position. Are you ready to begin?" Wells looked at his equations one last time, at the years of work that had led to this moment. Humanity had taken a different path than the rest of the galaxy, and now they would prove it was the right one. "Ready, Captain," he replied. "Let's show them how humans dance with dimensions." The Archimedes hung in space before the massive void tear, looking impossibly small against the gaping wound in reality. Captain Miller stood at the bridge's center, watching as the last evacuation ships fled the danger zone. Behind them, the proud fleets of the Galactic Council retreated, their most advanced weapons useless against this threat. "All systems ready," Anna reported from her station. Her fingers danced across the control panels, each movement precise and practiced. Dimensional resonance chambers at full capacity. Around the bridge, the crew worked with quiet efficiency. There was no panic, no fear, just the calm focus of people who knew exactly what they were doing. The ship's unusual design was finally making sense to the watching alien observers. What they had mistaken for flaws were actually perfectly tuned dimensional interfaces. "Begin Phase 1, Miller ordered. The Archimedes' engines changed their tone. Instead of the aggressive roar of conventional drives, they produced a harmony of sounds that seemed to vibrate through multiple dimensions at once. The ship's outer hull began to shimmer, parts of it existing in several places simultaneously. Through the Council's emergency broadcast channel, billions of beings watched in fascination. The ship they had laughed at weeks ago was now their only hope. "Look at their containment fields," one alien scientist gasped. "They're not containing anything. They're conducting dimensional energy like a musical instrument." Dr. Wells's voice came over the comm system from the science lab. "Dimensional harmony achieved in the first 3 layers, moving to 4th dimension synchronization." The void tear pulsed, sending out waves of distorted spacetime. On a normal ship, these waves would have torn through the hull like paper. But the Archimedes shifted and flowed around them, its structure adapting to each ripple. "They're not fighting the tear," another scientist realized. "They're working with it." Miller watched as the ship's sensors mapped the tear's dimensional frequencies. What looked like chaos to other species was a complex pattern to them. Humanity had spent years learning to read these patterns, to understand the music of the dimensions. "5th dimension sync complete," Anna announced. "Moving to 6th. The void tear seemed to notice them now. Strange energies crackled around its edges, reaching toward the ship like hungry tentacles. But where these energies had consumed other vessels instantly, they merely flowed around the Archimedes. In the observation deck, alien diplomats watched in stunned silence. The ship's movements defied everything they knew about physics. It wasn't just traveling through space, it was dancing with it. "Full dimensional sync in 60 seconds, Wells reported. The Archimedes began to glow with impossible colors as it activated its 7th dimensional systems. Parts of the ship existed in dimensions that alien sensors couldn't even detect. To the watching fleets, it looked like the vessel was both there and not there, solid and ethereal, present and absent all at once. "Amazing," breathed the council leader through the comm. "All these years, we thought we were teaching humanity about space travel. But you were developing something entirely new." Miller allowed himself a small smile. Sometimes the student surpasses the teacher. The void tear pulsed again, stronger this time. Emergency alerts blared across all channels as another star system began to distort at its edges. They were running out of time. "Sync complete," Anna called out. "All 7 dimensional layers responding. We're ready, Captain." Miller took a deep breath. This was the moment they had trained for, the reason they had kept their technology secret until it was perfected. If they failed, half the galaxy would be consumed by the void tear. If they succeeded, "Take us in," he ordered. Full dimensional engagement. The Archimedes moved forward, but not in any way the alien observers could properly describe. The ship seemed to fold through space itself, each part of its structure resonating with different dimensional frequencies. It approached the tear not as a solid object, but as a symphony of dimensional harmonies. By the ancient stars, someone whispered over the general channel. "They've actually done it. They've mastered dimensional travel in a way we never even imagined possible." As the Archimedes prepared to make contact with the void tear, Miller thought about all the mockery they had endured. The laughter had stopped now, replaced by awe and desperate hope. But humanity wasn't doing this for revenge or glory. They were doing it because they could. Because while other species had tried to conquer the dimensions, humanity had learned to dance with them. And now it was time for the dance to begin. As the Archimedes made contact with the void tear, reality itself seemed to bend. Colors that shouldn't exist filled the ship's viewing screens, and sensors recorded readings that made no logical sense. The crew felt a strange sensation, as if they were everywhere and nowhere at the same time. 7-dimensional contact established, Anna announced, her voice steady despite the impossible events unfolding around them. "We're detecting something on the other side." Captain Miller gripped his command chair as the ship penetrated deeper into the tear. The Archimedes' unique design allowed it to exist in all 7 dimensions simultaneously, creating a stable bubble of reality within the chaos of the void. "Dr. Wells," Miller called out, "what are we looking at?" In the science lab, Wells stared at his instruments with wide eyes. "Captain, we're detecting intelligent patterns in the dimensional distortions. This isn't just a random tear. Something is reaching through it." The ship's external cameras showed scenes that the human mind wasn't meant to process. Shapes that folded in on themselves, structures that existed in multiple places at once, beings that were both infinitely large and microscopically small. "They're 7th-dimensional entities," Wells breathed. "We're the first species in the galaxy to make direct contact." Through the Council's emergency broadcast channel, billions of beings watched in stunned silence as the Archimedes transmitted data back. The ship's 7-dimensional sensors revealed a truth that shook the foundation of galactic civilization. "The tear," Anna said, her fingers flying over her controls. "It's not an accident. It's a doorway. They're trying to come through." In the observation deck, alien diplomats pressed against the windows, their various sensory organs struggling to comprehend what they were seeing. The void tear wasn't just a rupture in space-time. It was a gateway to a higher plane of existence. "Full sensor data coming in," Wells reported. "The entities, they're curious about us. Our ship's ability to exist in their dimensional plane has caught their attention." The Archimedes shuddered as waves of 7th-dimensional energy washed over it. Where other ships would have been instantly destroyed, humanity's vessel adapted, its systems resonating in harmony with the higher dimensional frequencies. "They're attempting communication," Anna announced. Strange patterns appeared on her screens, complex mathematical sequences that pulsed with their own inner light. Miller leaned forward. "Can we respond?" "Yes," Wells replied. "Our dimensional resonance chambers can mirror their frequency patterns. We can talk to them." The ship's computers began translating the mathematical sequences. The first message from the 7th-dimensional beings appeared on the main screen. "You understand he dance." Miller exchanged glances with his crew. Humanity's approach to dimensional travel, so mocked by the galactic community, had just made them the first species to communicate with higher dimensional entities. "Send response," Miller ordered. "Tell them we come in peace, seeking understanding." The Archimedes pulsed with new frequencies, transmitting humanity's message into the void. The response came instantly, filling all 7 dimensions with patterns of pure mathematical beauty. "Others force. UFO. Interesting." In the council chamber, the alien leaders watched in amazement as humanity achieved in minutes what their civilizations couldn't accomplish in thousands of years. The laughter that had once filled these halls was replaced by humbled silence. "Captain," Wells called out, his voice urgent. "They're offering us something. Knowledge, I think. But they're warning us too. The tier. It's attracting attention from things even they fear." The ship's sensors detected new movements in the void, shapes and patterns that made even the seventh-dimensional entities retreat. The tear wasn't just a doorway. It was a breach in the walls of reality itself. "All stations, prepare for emergency protocols," Miller ordered. The time for first contact was over. Now they had to deal with the approaching threat. As the crew rushed to their positions, Miller looked at the swirling chaos beyond the ship's windows. Humanity had proven itself capable of dancing with dimensions, but now they faced an even greater challenge. The void wasn't just a tear anymore. It was about to become a battlefield, and the Archimedes would have to fight in ways no ship had ever fought before. The revelation was complete, but the real test was just beginning. The Archimedes' alarms blared as hostile entities emerged from the deepest part of the void tear. Unlike the curious seventh-dimensional beings they just communicated with, these creatures radiated pure aggression across all dimensional planes. Multiple contacts. Anna's fingers flew across her controls. "They're trying to force their way through the tear into our space." Captain Miller watched as the entities approached. They appeared as shifting masses of impossible geometry, their forms changing as they moved through different dimensions. The ship's sensors showed them as crystalline structures that somehow existed in all dimensions at once, but twisted and wrong, like shattered mirrors reflecting broken light. "What are we dealing with, Dr. Wells?" Miller demanded. "They're dimensional predators," Wells replied from the science lab, his voice tense. "They feed on the energy released when dimensions collapse. The tear is attracting them like sharks to blood." The first attack came without warning. One of the entities phased through multiple dimensions and struck the Archimedes' hull. The ship shuddered, but its dimensional harmonics held steady. "Conventional weapons are useless," Anna reported. "Their bodies exist outside normal space-time." Miller gripped his chair as another attack rocked the ship. "Then we'll fight them on their own terms. Activate the dimensional resonance weapons." The Archimedes' unique design revealed its final secret. What looked like decorative crystals along its hull began to pulse with energy. Each one vibrated at a different dimensional frequency, creating a complex symphony of force. "Weapons hot," Anna called out. "But sir, we've never tested them in actual combat." "No time like the present," Miller replied. "Target the nearest entity and fire." The ship's resonance weapons released beams of pure dimensional energy. Where conventional weapons would have passed harmlessly through the creatures, these beams struck them in all 7 dimensions simultaneously. The nearest entity recoiled, its crystalline form cracking. Through the Council's broadcast channel, billions watched as humanity's ship engaged in combat unlike anything seen before in the galaxy. The Archimedes moved like a dancer, spinning through multiple dimensions as it fought. "They're coordinating their attacks," Wells warned. 5 entities converging on our position." Miller watched as the hostile creatures surrounded them, their broken mirror forms reflecting impossible colors. "Anna, initiate defense pattern Delta. Dr. Wells, channel all spare power to the resonance chambers." The Archimedes performed a maneuver that should have been impossible, existing in multiple places at once as it evaded the synchronized attack. Its resonance weapons fired in perfect harmony, each beam striking at a different dimensional frequency. 2 more entities shattered under the assault, their fragments dissolving back into the void. But the others learned quickly, adapting their attack patterns. "Hull breach in dimensions 3 through 5. Anna shouted as a hit connected, sealing with dimensional fields. The ship's internal gravity flickered as reality itself warped around them. Crew members held onto their stations as space twisted in ways human minds weren't meant to process. But their training held. Humanity had prepared for this. "They're trying to drag us into their domain," Wells reported. "If they succeed, we'll be torn apart across all dimensions." Miller watched as more entities emerged from the void tear. The Archimedes had proven it could fight them, but they were severely outnumbered. They needed something more than just weapons. "Dr. Wells," he called out, "you said they're attracted to dimensional collapse. What if we gave them what they want?" Understanding dawned in Wells's voice. "A controlled dimensional cascade. We could use the ship's resonance chambers to create a fake feeding ground." "Like setting a trap," Miller nodded. "Anna, divert power from weapons to the resonance chambers. Program them to create a localized dimensional distortion." The Archimedes' crystals changed their tone, no longer projecting weapons but instead creating a complex web of dimensional frequencies. The hostile entities paused their attack, attracted to the new energy pattern. "It's working," Anna reported. "They're moving toward the distortion." Miller allowed himself a grim smile. Once again, humanity's understanding of dimensional harmony was proving superior to brute force. They weren't just fighting the entities, they were outthinking them. "Hold steady," he ordered as the creatures gathered around their trap. "When they're all in position, we'll show them why you should never underestimate human ingenuity." The battle wasn't over, but humanity had found its edge. Now they just had to spring their trap. The dimensional predators swarmed around the Archimedes' manufactured distortion, drawn to what they thought was a feast of collapsing reality. Captain Miller watched them gather, their crystalline forms twisting through multiple dimensions as they prepared to feed. "All entities in position," Anna reported, her hands steady on the controls despite the strain of existing in multiple dimensions. "The trap is ready." Miller looked at his crew, each member focused on their stations. What had started as a mockery from the galactic community had become humanity's finest hour. "Dr. Wells, begin the final sequence." "Initiating dimensional cascade," Wells announced from the science lab. "Resonance chambers at maximum capacity." The Archimedes' crystalline structures began to vibrate at frequencies that made reality itself shiver. The ship wasn't just manipulating dimensions anymore. It was conducting them like a symphony orchestra. "Now," Miller commanded. The trap snapped shut. The fake dimensional distortion collapsed inward, but instead of creating a feast for the predators, it generated a perfectly tuned web of 7-dimensional harmonics. The hostile entities found themselves caught in a prison of pure dimensional resonance. "Containment field stable," Anna called out. "They're trapped in a closed dimensional loop." Through the Council's emergency broadcast, billions watched as the entities thrashed uselessly against their dimensional cage. What looked like random energy patterns to others was a precisely calculated trap based on humanity's deep understanding of dimensional harmony. "Beginning final phase," Wells reported, preparing to seal the void tier. The Archimedes moved into position, its systems now free to focus on the original crisis. The ship's resonance chambers adjusted their frequencies, no longer creating weapons or traps, but instead generating healing harmonics. Like stitching torn fabric, Miller explained to the watching council, "We're not forcing the tear closed. We're helping reality remember its proper shape." The ship began to glow with impossible colors as it activated its full 7-dimensional capabilities. Parts of it existed in all dimensions at once, creating a bridge between normal space and the higher dimensions. "Pattern established," Anna announced. "Beginning dimensional reconstruction." The Archimedes pulsed with energy, each crystal on its hull vibrating in perfect harmony. Where other species had tried to force the universe to obey them, humanity asked it to dance. The void tear responded, its edges starting to fold back into normal space. In the council chamber, the alien leaders watched in stunned silence. The ship they had laughed at weeks ago was literally rebuilding the fabric of reality. Tear stability at 60%, 70%. Wells counted up as the damage began to heal. 85%. The trapped dimensional predators began to fade as their prison pushed them back into their own realm. Their crystalline forms dissolved, forced out of normal space by the healing dimensions. Tear closure at 90%. Anna reported. Final sealing sequence initiated. The Archimedes performed its last dimensional dance, its movements precise and beautiful. The void tear spiraled closed like water down a drain, reality knitting itself back together under the ship's gentle guidance. 100%, Wells called out triumphantly. The tear is sealed. Cheers erupted across all communication channels. The council chamber, once filled with mocking laughter, now rang with applause and praise. Ships from 100 species flashed their running lights in celebration. Captain Miller, the council leader's voice was heavy with respect. Humanity has done the impossible. You've not only saved countless lives, but shown us a completely new way of understanding dimensional travel. Miller smiled. Sometimes the best solutions come from those you least expect. As the Archimedes prepared to return to Earth, its crew exhausted but proud, Anna looked at her final readings. Sir, the higher dimensional beings left us a message before the tear closed. On the main screen, complex mathematical patterns resolved into simple words. You didn't see well. We will meet it again. The council leader cleared their throat. Captain, in light of these events, the council would be honored if Earth would share its dimensional technology. We'd be happy to teach you, Miller replied. But remember, the key isn't about having the most powerful engines or the strongest fields. It's about understanding that the universe isn't something to be conquered. It's something to dance with, Anna finished softly. As the Archimedes turned toward home, its impossible shape shifting through multiple dimensions, the laughter that had once followed humanity through the galaxy was replaced by something far more valuable. Respect. For in learning to dance with dimensions, humanity had not only proved itself, it had changed the universe forever.